it's like going steps forward and 5 steps back. So it's like that. Good, are you? Feeling good? Oh yeah, I just thought that's like. And they
It's like I'm arguing the fact that we don't meet the requirement. It's meet the requirement for meet the definition of
doing business. Yeah, we're doing President's Day. Mardi Gras on Sunday.
Well, it's consistent. We don't have consistency, right?
And we just really know what most of us do. It's going to get a big team somewhere. Yeah, we get like a second line band, like the crowd in the village crowd band just to watch. That's all you need. Yeah.
It's our understanding.
It doesn't really see it. Yeah, weird. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to take you out. If we say that when you retire, I'm going to take you out on a fire. See Danny Gardner. Hey, how are you?
Oh, well, that makes sense.
You probably could.
I think we were secured on that, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to this workshop for the Outdoor Events Ordinance. We're going to kind of, first of all, give you kind of a summary of the current proposal we have. I'm going to ask Carrie to do that, and then we'll, at that time, take comments from the public. When you do come up, if you would give us your name for the record, and so we can record that, and then we'll go from there, and then try to get all the comments we can. Our goal is to make this as a good an ordinance as we can make it and cover all the necessary topics, nothing more, nothing less than that. And so we want to get all the comments we can to try to help make this something that's going to be workable and have effect and that will be a benefit to all of us. With that, I'll ask Carrie Thiemann to, if she would, kind of walk us through the current draft we have and go over each topic, and then after that, again, we'll take public comment.
Okay. All right. And in case you don't know, in case you didn't know, I want to thank you. We have our Outdoor Review Committee here. We have Mary Cooper from the administration. We have Bobby Martin from North Walton Fire and Rescue. We have Sammy Sanchez and Ryan Crawford from South Walton Fire Department, Audie Rowell from the Sheriff's Department, and we worked very hard on this. So first thing, we have clarify the definition of an outdoor event. Shall mean any event open to the general public held outdoors within the unincorporated areas of Walton County at where any of the following conditions occur: blockage of roads or right-of-ways, any activity that would hinder the flow of traffic or fire emergency access to any residence, commercial, public, institutional, or industrial use of property. And we have defined a resort as a self-contained development that provides for visitor-oriented accommodations with amenities. We have exempted our, from permitting county-sponsored events and activities sponsored or approved by the school board conducted on school board property or property under the control of the school board. An example would be their football games. If the school board has, if the outdoor events off of their property, they would be exempt. They would have to get a permit, but they would be exempted from the fees, as well as our nonprofits, our religious private school 501c3 nonprofit organizations. Existing businesses that have a development order approval for outdoor events as an accessory use when no public liability exposure exists. Outdoor events qualified for an exemption must comply with the provisions of the fire, life, and safety requirements and receive a certificate of exemption from the appropriate fire and rescue agency. So they will still have to get approval for that. We've also clarified series permits, which a lot of you are very familiar with, that have a series of movie nights, concert nights, farmers markets, and the like. A series permit is one permit may be issued for a series of events, this would be annually, which is defined as more than one outdoor event sponsored by the same individual or group, which occurs on the same site more than one time in a calendar year, which is similar in nature with infrequent changes in detail. There has been an addition of an annual entertainment permit for resort events. The county may issue an annual entertainment permit for resort events as long as the following criteria are met. Events must be held in a permanent location, i.e. a green or plaza, with a stage or platform designed and intended for such use. No arts and entertainment fees, taxes, or other compensation will be collected at the event or location or by restaurants or businesses abutting such event or location, and events shall be limited to movies or the showing of other video entertainment, limited musical or entertainment performances, and all parking is fully accommodated on the site, and no food or beverage sales or other forms of vending shall be allowed. A request for an annual entertainment permit must be accompanied by a seasonal plan of events with an estimation of the type of events that are expected, as well as an annual safety plan for parking, ingress, and egress. I think you're aware of a couple things that we added onto the application were that when you state the exact date and time of commencement and conclusion of the event, we want to know the hours that live music or any amplified noise will be performed, not to exceed 10 p.m. due to the noise ordinance. And we've also asked for when an event will be after dark and you give your parking plan, we want you to show any appropriate lighting for safety on that plan for events after dark. And upon recommendation by the Outdoor Review Committee, the applicant may be required to provide a dynamic message board 7 days prior to the outdoor event, notifying the public of the pending outdoor event. And this would be in the occasion of something that is possibly blocking a lane of 98 or 30A, one of the main roadways, to let residents know a week in advance that there could be something hindering their getting in and out of their home, their subdivision, that kind of thing. The other addition was county will deny a permit if the applicant refuses to accept any conditions of permit recommended by the Outdoor Review Committee. We are still working on the separate fee resolution. That will be presented with a final draft of this document.
Can you walk through the typical process if you qualify for an outdoor event? What is the process you go through to get that permit?
It's very simple. Most of our event planners have a copy of our outdoor event application and the sheriff's recommendation form. Those are filled out They are submitted to our department with the $100 fee. It is logged in, and you are scheduled usually for the next Outdoor Review Committee, which meets once a month. It's by appointment. You come in, and we are all there in one place rather than having to track down the different departments for your approvals. We review the event. We each have our own set of questions that we ask depending upon whether the event's like a large wine festival or if it's a small 10K race or whatever. We ask the questions that we need to ask. We look through the supporting documentation that you submitted with your application. At the end, the conclusion of your appointment, we inform you of any additional documentation that we need and let you know what final steps that we need to take as far as getting signatures on recommendation forms. Once we have all the supporting documentation and all the signatures from the fire department, the sheriff's department, and admin, we compile this, we issue the permit, and we send it to the event planner. It's become a very smooth process. We're very pleased with how it's worked out.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Any comments from the panel before we open up to public comment?
There's a couple of things, Carrie, that I frankly have not caught till today. One is we had added last year to an ordinance number 2014-13, the roadside fundraising regulations to the Chapter 4 of the Walton County Code of Ordinances. So we don't need to repeal the entire ordinance. We'll accept the roadside fundraising portion of Chapter 4. And my suggestion would be repeal Chapter 4 of the Walton County Code, except as to sections 4-29 through 4-34. But I'll send you specific language on. I just don't. We work pretty hard on getting that done, so I don't want to repeal that by accident.
Mark will send. Okay.
I'll get that language to you.
Okay. Anything else?
Not off the top of my head right now.
All right. Anyone else have any comments before we open it up? All right. Anyone would like to speak on the outdoor events? This is your time. Who wants to go first? Mr. Vorbeck?
Thanks. For the record, Gary Vorbeck, attorney in Destin, Florida. One, I think, there's shown some great effort to reduce some of the issues, the constitutionality issues that we had with this, and I appreciate the effort that put into it for the staff to do that. So essentially, that this is not all inclusive like it was before. There's going to be outdoor events that don't block traffic or don't hinder EMS or sheriff patrol cars. That they're not outdoor events, and this won't govern them. So this really eliminates a lot of the issues that we had with it before. But a couple I'd like to bring up, if we could, has to do with on page 2. I'm sorry, page 2, number D. I think you changed it to F. Pass some of these out now. Mark gave me a copy of this ordinance this morning. It's not the same.
Yeah, I sent you the wrong one.
Copies out on the table.
This is our changes with amendments that we'd like to suggest. But I'm taking it off of the copy that Mark gave me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll send the draft.
So it's not exactly the same as what you handed out tonight. But if you could, go to the annual entertainment permit inter-resort events plan unit developments at D, or I think you changed it now to E. Mm-hmm. It says the event must be located on open space, i.e. Green space or designed for such use. I think you changed the language a little bit in this draft, but and you took out the 5,000 square feet requirement, so that was a good move. We're questioning the next one. No arts and entertainment fees, taxes, or other compensation will be collected at the event. I don't see the need. I mean, my understanding of this ordinance is to protect safety, health and safety, and protect our roads and protect access. And I don't see the need where that does anything to benefit that governmental purpose. So I don't see why D should be prohibitive taking advantage of D because you charge an entertainment fee for whatever reason. The next thing we have is the next one, C. The event should be limited to movies or showing of other video equipment, limited musical or entertainment performances. I don't know why we want to limit it. That does not affect the life safety of purpose of the ordinance. So why limit it if we had an event that didn't fall into those categories, that would be prohibited, and I don't know why we want to limit that. The next one we had issue is all parking is fully accommodated. Now, we agree that all parking has to be fully accommodated, but on-site is the question we have. And I just give you an example that if one of the event plazas had parking somewhere else, but had provided parking, so there wasn't a life safety concern, whether it be a church, some other parking, whether it be adjoining properties, but parking was provided on-site, but not on-site, still that wouldn't be a problem. You see my issue there? And so as long as it provided that all parking is fully accommodated, then that should satisfy the life safety needs. And then finally, the other one, the last one, no food or beverage sales or other forms of vending shall be allowed. I don't see how that helps with the life safety either. In this form of event, we want somebody to take advantage of this provision, annual entertainment permit for inter-resort events and plan unit developments. You want somebody to take advantage of that, but because there's food or beverage sales on or near or in the plaza, shouldn't be a concern as far as life safety. And then one final thing here that we noticed that we said on the same page, this is on page 3 now, would be my E, that's application. But there's and it was mentioned early by Ms. Thiemann that music wouldn't go past 10 p.m. Do we have that provision in the thing? We don't need to repeat it then. This is just telling you're saying what here is in the application. If you have it in your zoning, in your noise control, then that's what they need to go by. And that may be amended, changed, or whatever, and you'd have to come back and change this. And this really provision application is just for the application also. And so really no talk about limits of noise should be in this ordinance. So if you have any questions of me, the changes that we're requesting.
Anybody have any questions, Mr. Vorbeck?
And ours mainly have to do with the inter-resort.
Here, I have a question on the parking issue. If you park off-site, how would they get to the
Could
venue?
be a bus. It could be something you planned out.
So there'd be bus
shuttle.
stops.
It could be walking across the street. It could be a lot of things. I don't know, but golf carts or whatever you provide a basis for. But to ensure, one of the things you would do to help for the life safety is say we have adequate parking. So I'm making this example up, but we go to the church. The church says, "Yeah, I'm not using it. You pay me a fee. You can park here as long as you shuttle the folks back and forth."
You wouldn't anticipate any kind of issues as far as shuttling people, having bus stops, having golf carts going across the street? You don't?
No, the whole purpose of this is if you become a violation, become a health hazard. If you become parking or a hindrance to the EMTs or a hindrance to the sheriff's department, then it is a problem. But off-site, I think there's some advantages you can take.
Okay.
Okay? So if any question, but then again, I do want to compliment staff on eliminating some of the legal issues that we had with it before.
All right. No more questions. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. All right. Anyone else?
I have two.
Yes, sir. Your name, please?
I'm Aaron Costin.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Cosson. I work, just to clarify, I work for the Property Owners Association, so we're learning this process. I've only been involved in it shortly, so if this, Rosemary Beach, if it's already been addressed, I apologize. I guess it's 1A, blockage of roads or right-of-ways. Does that include only county roads and right-of-ways, or is that any road and right-of-way? Because the roads in Rosemary Beach, we pay for and we maintain.
But you rely on our fire safety and our.
No, and that was the next question.
The intent would be
we never
any road.
block anything where there's no access for fire and EMS.
Yeah,
or
I think that's a great question. We'll need to make sure that it's understood it would be
Public and private.
public and private.
okay, and then the next question is if there's never any hindrance to a fire and EMS, no permits required. Because as the POA, we have 4 events a year that we sponsor, and there's never any hindrance to this.
As long as it doesn't block roadways or allows access, then I think we're fine.
Okay?
And I may expand on that just a little bit, because
Yeah,
you
definitely.
could have a lot of scenarios about blocking roadways.
Right.
For county ordinance purpose, if it was on a county roadway at an intersection and you were just blocking traffic to let pedestrians by for like a race, I would consider that as part of this ordinance. But on private property, and all you're doing is temporarily blocking, as long as it's not something that's permanent.
Right, we use the metal barricades that like if we were to make it easier for pedestrians to walk, I have 14 security staff members who man that location, and if EMT show, they move them right through. And we never block 30A for any of the POA events.
That probably would not be a concern to us. It would only be if cars were parked there, we couldn't move cars.
Right.
Certainly then we would.
Right, and we've in the past communicated with Sammy when construction went on roads being closed for that, and we don't have to have a permit to replace our roads, and the roads are technically closed, we just communicate.
What are your events that you have?
We have an annual homeowners meeting, which is not open to the public at all. We have a Easter egg hunt that is on one of our greens. No roads are closed. Well, part of our road's closed, but it's, like I said, temporary barricades. We could make people move. We have July 4th fireworks. Nothing's closed for that. And then we have Old Town Holiday, Christmas tree lighting. And the Jim DeMar Run is not a POA event. They would be correct. We allow them to have that, but we're trying to figure out from a property owner's standpoint, what do we need to pull events for? And those 4 events, to me, from reading this, do not meet the requirement of an outdoor event permit.
I would agree with that.
The only one that might concern me would be the July 4th.
Which we would still do the fireworks company secures a permit from the fire department for those, and we communicate with them directly, and we would also communicate with the sheriff's department directly should we need any support from
We
them.
might want to get with you about that.
Okay, thank you.
So,
And Sam, the gym don't, that's not POA, but it does affect 30 days because they cross the day in 2 places.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Kevin Boyle. I'm representing my company, Portruman Creative, but more specifically, Seaside, Florida, the town of Seaside, at least the commercial side. So yeah, first of all, thanks very much for trying to tighten this up. I think that this process, just from the experience with the ORC and Carrie, it's been a good streamlined process with open communication, so that's very much appreciated. And it's always good to see Sammy. The main concern would be the arts and entertainment, the A&E collections. That's a complicated matter. That's not something that's easily defined. I think that's one of the main issues that I have with the new wording is that we're defining an event with the word event in the definition. So I think getting more specific, I know that, I'm not sure the gentleman who he's representing, but I guess I know that it's been simplified, but I would definitely want to see exactly what the definition of an event is. I guess just a little bit of a clarification there. But from an A&E standpoint, A&E serves more purposes than just to actually put on events, and that's something that I think should be defined, especially as it pertains to towns like Seaside or Baytown. So those are the main concerns with the A&E. The fee concerns is that that's a resolution that hasn't been drawn out yet. The $100 fee, as it is now, isn't actually defined anywhere that says that development needs to pay $100 per event. It does say per event, not an annual calendar of events.
It says for an event.
Oh, okay, great. All right, so my concern would be is the elevation of those fees and tiering them based on attendance or however. I just don't know what that exhibit's going to look like when it comes to a fee schedule. And so that would be another discussion just to make sure that that's...
We would, before this goes to planning commission, we would have a final draft of this document and a final draft of the resolution.
Okay. And then from the noise ordinance standpoint, I don't think you get rid of that. I think you probably just reference the noise ordinance just in case there are any changes. And there are stipulations in the noise ordinance that's more complicated than just saying 10 p.m. So I think, if anything, reference the ordinance just in case it's ever changed in the.
The reason that that was put on here is because it is on the application, and that section outlines the application. And we wanted to make it clear because we have had outdoor events in the past that have caused phone calls to commissioners, to administration, to planning, because they went past 10 p.m. So it's just to clarify.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I actually agree with you that it should be in there. So I actually think that the application, having someone that produces, 100 or so events in a given year, I actually like the idea of outlining the application fee, having that be on record, and having it be something that we can change those items. I think that's all I'm saying is instead of saying at 10 p.m. is saying at 10 p.m. and the other stipulations of the noise ordinance, just in case one day we might actually address that.
The reason I'm clarifying is because most of you here are old timers, and like you said, you do 100 events a year. Y'all are doing events day in, day out, every month. One of the instances where there were numerous phone calls was someone new who'd never done an event before. So this clarifies it for anyone new coming in, a
Right.
new event coordinator, or someone who's just putting on a one-time event
Yep.
for the very first time. We want them to know that the noise ordinance says you can't have live bands outside after 10 p.m.
Sure. And in closing, I guess in that spirit too, as someone that's produced events in the area for a long time before a lot of stipulated language and the ORC and that kind of thing, and I think proudly as Seaside helping to help define how events should be permitted and how they should be run, I think it would be good to continue to have those conversations with the people that have been producing the events. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the ORC, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Who's next? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Chelsea Rye. I'm the events coordinator at Grand Boulevard.
Okay. Is it Ryan? Arway?
RYE, Rye,
Okay.
like the bread. I find the B in the definitions, 1B, I still find that a little ambiguous. I heard you guys say that if it's a public county road, is it a concern for you? For instance, at Grand Boulevard, the private roads, that's all private roads that we close down whenever we do close down roads for events. It's always a movable barricade that can be moved at any time. That road is never completely shut down. So what I heard was that I would not need to pull an event permit for that because it's a private road and it's a movable and easily movable barricade that's there. Just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly.
My thinking is, and y'all correct me, even a temporary blockage that would hinder the flow of traffic or fire emergency access on a private road inside of it would need if it's large enough event that you do that, would need a permit. Because the purpose of the permit is to advise that guy and that guy over there, when you're having it, what's the size of the event so they can properly staff ahead of time. So you're right, we might want to add some language that says any activity that would hinder the flow of traffic on a private and public road, that would make it a little clearer. But yes, I would anticipate you would need a permit for that.
Because you have one event that I know of that completely blocks that main thoroughfare where all the restaurants.
We never completely block the boulevard because we always make sure we've got enough room for the fire truck to get through.
Yeah. But you do temporarily, don't you?
Barricades
Yeah.
that can just be
Yeah.
picked up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, our concern with temporary barricades is that there's somebody immediately there available.
Mm-hmm. And we usually always have volunteers posted at those.
No, I understand, but the point of that is there are many events where they're bound through discovery where there's barricades that can be removed.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody present, so we need to quickly, rapidly get in there. So I think that's the concern from an accessibility standpoint.
Right.
So we make sure that
And I definitely agree, and I want you guys to be able to get in there in case of emergency. I just want to make sure that if we're going to say public roads are not a concern, or well, rather not a concern, but rather something that you don't necessarily need to get that permit, that we're being a little bit more specific about that. For us, we just want to know we need to pull a permit because of reason A, B, C, and D. Like, we want to look at this and know we meet these 4 qualifications, and that means I need to pull a permit. Because right now we just feel a little, just not really sure when it's appropriate to pull one and when it's not. Is there a cap on the number of people? Obviously, closing down roadways and, you know, serving alcohol and that kind of thing, that all makes sense. But what about the smaller, you know, entertainment type things that aren't necessarily festivals and large scale? So just getting a little bit clearer on that definition would greatly help us all.
But you want some clear criteria you can go to and say, we're going to have this event,
Absolutely.
this is what the impact's going to be, do I need a permit?
Yep.
Okay.
We would love that. Thank you, and we really do appreciate you guys looking into this stuff, and makes our job easier, which I know makes your job easier, so thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
I have a question on page 4 of 5.
Your name, please?
Mary Nielsen, Nielson. What is your policy when the Rosemary Beach race closes down 30A at Thanksgiving on page 4 of 5 on number 11? Is your policy that you notify the neighbors by putting a big sign up on 30A along that stretch between Alice and Rosemary, or is that just a thing that you might choose to do or might choose not to do? Or how do the people in those subdivisions that have no other way in and out and are trapped in there during that particular time, how do they know that this even happens? Because many of them are out of state, out of town. They don't necessarily read the Walton Sun or read anything. Right. I mean, they just come down here on a Thursday or Friday night and they roll in and boom, they're trapped in there.
And Mary, I think the current policy is there is no notification, correct? The only notification would be if they're closing the roadway, they have to go to the board to get the approval to close the roadway.
This is the Jim Del Moro. They do it
Every year around Thanksgiving.
It's not a Rosemary Beach event.
Oh, it happens to start there. Well, sorry for blaming you, but I knew it was there. Okay. The 10K. How are the neighbors who are in those private subdivisions who have no other way in and out besides accessing 30A, which is closed to them for a period of time, even though it may be brief, how do they know that that thing is going to happen that next morning?
They wouldn't unless they just happened to be at the board meeting where we closed the roads, and that's one of the reasons we were adding in this particular ordinance. The ORC could recommend signage.
But recommend may be required, and actually having it accomplished are two different things.
Well, if they don't comply with the requirements of the permit, we can always revoke the permit or not issue it the next year.
So, Mayor, are you suggesting we make that mandatory for the message board?
I am saying that message board, if you have subdivisions that are totally dependent and trapped on getting in and out of 30A, and they have no other recourse, and that 30A is closed to them, even if it's a half an hour. A lot can happen in a half an hour. And if they're absentee owners, they haven't got a clue till they wake up and get in the car and go and they've stopped. Or if they called 911 or something, I don't know what's going to happen. But the fact is, I think there should be a message board.
Okay.
Especially because isn't that on a weekend, or is it on Thanksgiving morning, or when is it? Thanksgiving morning.
I can let you respond to if there were a 911 call.
I'm going to give you an example. Paradise by the Sea, practically all absentee owners. They come and go, some are rentals, some aren't. They might fly in their private jet. They may come in at midnight, okay? They wake up the next morning, they have a heart attack. They have no clue that that's out there. Okay? What's going to happen?
I'll respond. We actually have a contingency plan for any 911 emergency inside that race. So we have a contingency plan of how to get emergency vehicles in there. Now, if you're talking about just being able to get out and go get a cup of coffee, I understand you know, the message board, that's really what the message board is for.
And that's why it probably should be there.
Yeah, it's more for to notify you that, hey, you may have some trouble getting out.
Between these hours. I think the message board in that instance along that stretch of 30A should be put up far enough to the east and far enough to the west to cover whether they're driving in from Panama City Airport, they're driving in from that the road off 98 from Camp Creek, golf course. I think that should be so that they can see it coming in either direction before they get to their particular gated community that's on that stretch that's closed
I
down.
want to believe on the last one, we did do that. We put one in Rosemary Beach and we put one on the other side of.
But when they come out of Waterstown, they would see it coming to Alice. Because there's the 3 or 4 little subdivisions right in there that are all tracked.
But again, to calm your fears, we have a specific plan to get emergency vehicles in there with the assistance of the sheriff's office and South Walton Fire.
And for these large races on 30A, we post sheriff's representatives, deputies at the intersections to 30A. So whenever the runners or bicyclers have to cross an intersection on 30A, there's a sheriff's deputy there.
But not from a subdivision, just from a road, what you're telling me. Are you telling me a subdivision, or are you telling me a road?
Are they at every intersection?
No, they're not at
38?
every intersection.
Just
No.
the major ones like
Just
283 and
Yeah.
395?
Yeah, and we recommend, we actually, from the sheriff's office standpoint, do recommend the road signs, because what we also want to do is limit the number of people coming out. We hope when they wake up, they go, oh, there's a road race,
Right.
I better wait till 9 o'clock before I leave. That helps us as well. So we absolutely.
Encourage that.
Oh, yes, ma'am, absolutely.
So I guess that's my question, instead of maybe, and somebody says yes or no, we don't need it, it's more of a, yes, we're going to do that in the case of races, where subdivisions are blocked.
Yes, ma'am. If we make that recommendation, we're going to make sure it happens.
And
It's
who
good for
who
everybody.
puts the sign up? Who puts the sign, who physically puts the sign?
The event coordinator.
And do you have a standard as to
they
what it's
range.
supposed to say and how it's supposed to look, or is it a flashing sign, or what kind of
They're
sign?
usually the dynamic signs are the flashing signs.
Okay,
Message board.
on the
And
message boards.
Most of our races, if they don't have a sheriff's deputy at the minor intersections with 30A, like from a subdivision, they'll usually have volunteers there. They'll have volunteers from their staff that are.
Okay.
that are
I'm just
working.
thinking of a medical emergency, because a lot of people in some of these
They
are
have-
older
They
people.
have to submit, whenever it's an event that large, they have to write up a contingency plan, and they work with sheriff and fire to make sure that they have allowed for any contingency.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Nielsen, I just wanted to add on to that part of the whole premise of the permitting process is that's what drives the public safety folks to get together and develop that, that incident action plan on how we're going to respond to those folks in that area that are affected, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to talk twice?
Sure.
I just want to make one point, and this goes back to the fees. I think based on just any hesitation of somebody pulling a permit gives me kind of pause, because if there is any sort of barrier, whether it's a monetary or something, we'll pull a permit for if somebody sneezes outside, if it'll allow for public safety. I think that's where it's good that you're creating a series of events so people are aware of it, that there's not a lot of changes. But I think for those one-off events or anything like that, if somebody's on private property and they're like, well, I don't want to spend $100 or $300 or whatever those fees are, and that hinders public safety because they didn't tell the proper authorities they were having an event. I think that's where it comes into fees. That's what scares me, is if we create any sort of barrier to the idea of should I tell the county I'm doing something, then we're going to go right back to the reason why we're here.
Right.
So that's it.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Kelly Carter, Walton County Tourist Development Council. I run the special events and marketing program where we have signature and experience events, and we give out money to promote these. Sammy sits on the committee. One of the things that I complete with every event, and that's why I know about the 30A 10K, it's one of our sponsored events, is a memorandum of agreement. And as part of that memorandum of agreement, I say in there that all permits, all county ordinances, and everything shall be obeyed, or there could be a potential loss of funding. How do I even know? We've always put it in there, but I didn't. Basically, they have to show me they have a permit. But if they did anything else that maybe wasn't done like it was supposed to or anything like that, how would I even know that happened? Do you go over them after the fact and say that, this happened, everything like it was supposed to, or maybe from your end, the emergency plan didn't work like it's supposed to? Because at the end of the day, we're part of the county too, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything right.
If we have an event occur, like I referenced, where we get complaints.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, it happens over the weekend. I get calls and emails over the weekend. I come in Monday morning and I immediately contact the event planner. And I
Okay.
email them, I let them know, I list when the complaints came in, what the complaints were about, and we talk about how to make that not happen the next year.
Okay, and we do something similar, but I've never heard that you all
But
get,
now I think the 3810K is the only event that I'm aware of that I've permitted that.
we're a sponsor of Arts Quest, we're a sponsor of the wine festivals, we're a sponsor of the Seaside Half Marathon. I have 23 events that I'm a sponsor
If you
of.
could email me that
Okay.
list of events for the year, that would help us greatly, and we would know that it is a sponsored event, and I could make sure to give you kind of an after report, that this event either went without a hitch, or we had these complaints on this event, so that you're aware of. events
Okay,
you're
that would be
sponsoring.
great, because that would help me in the future, because each memorandum of agreement is tailored to that event, and it's also tailored to exactly what not only the TDC needs them to do, but the county needs them to do to make sure that it could not only happen, but happen in the future.
And if you'll get with me after the meeting, I'll get you a card with my email on it, and
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Anybody have any comments from the panel? Anyone else going once? Twice? All right, thank you very much for your attendance.